This episode of Kind of Funny Gamescast is brought to you by Movement Watches. That's, MVMT watches. It was founded on the belief that style shouldn't break the bank. The watchmaker's goal is to change the way consumers think about fashion by offering high-quality, minimalist products at revolutionary prices. We got ours. They're legit. One, Kevin Coelho, says that his is sexy as hell, and it fits really well. Those are paraphrased quotes, but it kind of gets the spirit across. The company started by two broke college kids that wanted to wear stylish watches but couldn't afford them, so they started their own watch company. Kind of sounds like when we left IGN to do our own thing because, we wanted to do our own thing. I respect that. Movement Watches starts at just $95. At a department store, you're looking at hundreds of dollars. Movement figured out that by selling online, they're able to cut out the middleman and retail markup, providing the best possible price. We're talking classic designs, quality construction, style minimalism. Over 500,000 watches have been sold in over 160 countries. Here's the deal. You can get 15% off today with free shipping and free returns by going to mvmtwatches.com/kinda. The watch is a really clean design. Seriously, Kevin's been getting compliments. Everybody's loving him. Now's the time to step up your watch game. Go to mvmtwatches.com/kinda. Join the movement. That's a tagline I like a lot. What's up, guys? Welcome to the first ever episode 92 of the Kind of Funny Gamescast. As always, I'm Tim Gettys, joined by the coolest dudes in video games, Colin Moriarty and Greg Miller.
It's good to be here.
How you guys doing?
Well, thank you.
I'm good.
Good. Me and you went to Twitter today, Greg?
We did.
That was fun.
Met the new czar of Twitter gaming.
Uh-huh.
Seems like a nice guy.
He is a good dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Rod.
He was a good guy.
Who
Rod
didn't
was
die.
a good guy.
Rod didn't die. He just went somewhere else.
Yeah, Rod was great. But this new guy, I like him. Twitter
Dennis.
gaming, going places.
Yeah.
Yeah. What have you been playing recently?
Tetris. Lots of
A lot of-
Sparkade Tetris.
You're addicted.
Over 450 of you sent me Sparkade friend requests. Thank you very much for continuing the addiction I have to the Tetris and Sparkade. I've taken a lot of money from all of you, and I appreciate that. And I want you to keep bringing all your money at me. I'm up $20 on Sparkade.
Is that it? After all of this, you're up $20.
Well, a lot of kids don't play. I mean, you can play it for free. So the majority of our fans just play it for free. Only the wily ones, like your Joey Noels, come out here and actually put money down.
She's coming
and
at
then
you?
get smoked.
How's that going with the rivalry between the two of you?
Now it's all screwed up. Because one of the downsides of Sparkade is that they can put all in your friends tab is all your friend requests and then the people challenging you to games. So I currently have 430 friend requests bearing all the games I need to do. But I found last night that if I sit there and just spam like this, it'll go through and catalog them a little bit faster. But I'm working on some Greg Miller trickery to get through there and do that. But yeah, I've been playing a lot of that. Last night I played Batman Episode 3. Very good ending. They continue to manipulate the Batman story and what you think you're going to get. It's very, very interesting. I like what they're doing.
With the three of them, what's your kind of take on it, on each one?
Number one was very, I think, not by the numbers, but it was, okay, this feels like a normal Batman game. This feels like a normal Batman story. And then in the end, there's like this revelation of like, oh, is that really what it's going to be? Or is it going to be a cliffhanger where we come back and they undo that immediately? They didn't undo it. Episode 2 continues then to spread it out and get really interesting with the lore, really change it up to some stuff we haven't seen before in a Batman narrative. And then episode 3 continues on that and again ends in a very, very interesting spot. The twist ending here, I didn't see coming. It leaves me a lot. Episode 1 ended and I was like, oh, that's cool. I'm interested to see where it ends. Episode 2 ended and I was like, fuck, I can't wait to play episode 3. And episode 3 ended and I'm like, I can't wait for episode 4.
That's awesome.
Because it's putting it in such a different where we haven't played Batman before when we've played a Batman game before. And then also Titanfall. I got Titanfall 2. Was excited to jump into multiplayer. Servers aren't live yet. I was hoping I could jump on with some of the reviewers or people who are still playing. I guess that's come and gone already, that window. So now I'm just waiting until Friday when it's out for everybody and I can play on servers there. But I played single player for a while and I was a bit disappointed. We've talked about it a million times. I'm not first-person shooter guy. I'm usually not shooter narrative guy. And then when we talk about shooter, I mean, like for me, Titanfall has always been the weird one. Titanfall 1 especially, where I was drawn to the multiplayer, really enjoyed it, put a month and a half into it, don't listen to Colin, and had a great time. Regened, as they say. But had a really, like that actually a draw to me and what I liked about it. So I was like, okay, single player, this will keep me going and blah, blah, blah. And I jumped in and it's just not, didn't click for me. I played a couple hours last night. I'll get back to it, I'm sure, this weekend, waiting for the servers to go live. But once servers go live, that's really where it's at for me.
Yeah. We had a review over at youtube.com/kindoffunnygames by one Alfredo Plays.
Yeah.
You should check that out.
And he had come, when I talked to him more about it, like through text when he was working on it, he was saying, like, yeah, I don't know if single player is that great. But then all the other reviews were like, this single player is awesome. And that's why I'm not ready just to be done with it. It is this interesting mix of, you are this guy, you get bonded to your Titan early, you're not supposed to have this Titan, now you do. And like there's this interesting like dialogue choice in it where you're playing, you get to pick how the guy responds or what questions he'll ask. And the interaction is funny. The robot, of course, very robotic, right? Answering the questions very literally, doing all these different things. So there's some chances for fun stuff there. But it is this interesting mix of like, everybody, when Titanfall originally came out, they were like, oh man, a single player campaign would have been great. You jump into this one, and it's interesting to see how they break you apart from the Titan, put you back together. There's bosses that are in their Titans that you need to go. The other Titans, people show up in their Titans, are talking shit to you through your comms. You're eavesdropping on their conversations. It's very interesting, but it's beautiful. Like the thing about it is, it's beautiful. It's running really, really well on PlayStation 4. The wall running is as fun as I remember. The shotgun is as good as I remember. It looks so crisp and clear. I can't wait to get into multiplayer and have that challenge. And I want to, play more of the single player campaign to see if it turns that corner. Because I was looking through trophies, and a lot of the trophies seem to be single player oriented, which surprised me. I was expecting to be the opposite, where I'd play through. A lot are hidden, but it seems like the majority are single player.
Huh, very cool.
Yeah.
I got to do a Let's Play of Sonic Mania. That's now
also up on
the
youtube.com/kindoffunnygames.
And my God, that game, it's everything I could ever want. I was talking to you about this on our drive over here, but it reminds me a lot of Mega Man 9 and 10 in the way that they seem to be nailing it. Like
Don't say that.
No, in terms of like what it did is for the franchise. Like, this isn't Sonic 4. This isn't Sonic 4 Episode 2.
Yeah.
It seems like it's made by people that really, really, really care about nailing the aesthetic, the feel, the level design, everything about what made the other ones so great. So I'm super stoked about it. It was a lot of fun. It felt perfect playing. We got to debut the exclusive news of Tails and Knuckles. Well, we knew they were going to be playable. It was the first time we ever seen them playable for Tails and Knuckles, and there was a new stage. And you should definitely check it out if you like Sonic at all. It's like they're nailing it. Like this is going to be the best Sonic game I think that will ever happen again. Like this is it. This is their last hurrah, and then other things will happen after that. But I had a lot of fun with it.
When's it out?
Check it out. Spring 2017.
Okay.
Right now they're talking about PS4, Xbox One, and PC. But I'd be shocked if it doesn't end up on that there Switch.
That Switch ball coming at you.
Yeah.
That's a new thing because you can't throw up the X.
I love it. This is the Kind of Funny Gamescast. Each and every week we get together to talk about video games and all the things we love about them. You can get it early on patreon.com/kindoffunnygames, or you can get it late on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames. Either way, I love you a lot. You're a really cool person. You do a lot of cool things. Just like Steven Insler, once again, producer of this show. Shout out to you, my friend. You are doing God's work. Speaking of God's work, Colin, Civilization 6.
Yes. Just real quick before we get into that, we have a Sparkade sponsorship coming up. So
Right.
I just want everyone to know that.
No, we talked about that in the last Gamescast with Greg. Because Greg, of course, Sparkade. We're doing a sponsorship event / Let's Play in December. It looks like there'll be details about it. But good call.
So just to be
Colin,
perfectly transparent about
Of course.
that. Also, shout out to Battlefield 1. Still playing it. It's still pretty early, but the game's really great. Also playing World of Final Fantasy, although I don't have any thoughts on it as of yet. I think it's a little obtuse. I'm surprised it's for children, to be perfectly honest. So Civilization 6. I played Civilization 6 for 5-6 hours so far. Would have played much more, but my laptop, I use a really kind of beefy Origin laptop. We all have them. Ran Civilization 5 perfectly at highest settings. I have it set on medium settings for Civilization 6, and the computer runs really, really hot. So like I'm actually afraid to play it for more than about 90 minutes at a time because the computer, I've never felt the computer this hot in my life.
Are you leaving on your balls?
Well, I like to leave it on my lap. And then I was playing it kind of like holding it like a book almost, with my left hand and using the mouse with my right hand, like lying down on the couch. It's just not ideal. So I probably would have played 2 or 3 times more than that, but it's just not really working out for me because that was the way I played Civ 5, which was just incessantly. So early impressions of Civilization 6 are very positive. I think the game is excellent. I mean, I didn't expect anything more from that than that. And people have to remember, Charles Agnette, who we used to work with at IGN, is the one who introduced me to Civilization. He was the PC editor there, and he works at Apple now. And he was like, I know you don't like PC games and stuff, and you'd really like this game. And so I gave it a go before Civilization 5 even came out, and I fell in love with it. So that was really my entrance. I was familiar with the Civilization series. Civ 4 especially, I know is a lot of people's favorites. But That was a game I spent. I don't think in the last 5 years I played a game more hour-wise than Civ 5. I don't think it's even close. So I've played Civ 6 many times less in terms of fewer hours than Civ 5. But the game is familiar. I like some of the additions that they've made, specifically creating wonders and other kind of things for your cities, or for your capital cities and then your ancillary cities that require blocks of land. So in other words, you'd have your city, it could be your capital, it could have a massive population, lots of production, giving you science and all sorts of things, culture, but it's on one block. It didn't really make any sense. And so they've kind of spread that around a little bit to give it more of like a sprawl, the city. So I went and built like these hanging gardens. The hanging gardens, if they're built, for people that don't know, I mean, this is going to be so nerdy for people that don't even know Civilization, but there are things called wonders that you can build. You have to basically get to them first. So like one civilization might be able to build a pyramid. This is like very good for, it could be good for their culture or their religion or whatever. The hanging gardens, I don't remember what they did, but I remember I needed a block near a river in order to have them. And like, then I had to like raise a farm that I had there in order to make room for it, which wouldn't have really been necessary in the previous game. So it gets a little more micromanagey in that particular regard. Combat feels familiar. I mean, obviously there are some new wrinkles to combat and to the way units stack and stuff like that. But if you're into combat, and most people that play Civilization you don't have to fight at all in Civilization, of course. But if you do that, you'll find some differences there. I like the idea of the builder in this particular game feels and acts differently. You're basically using a builder not only to get resources, like one-time resources at a particular block, but also to create a farm. Once you do that with the builder, obviously, then the builder then disappears. So you have to continue to create builders and stuff like that. So the map I'm playing on right now, I'm playing on a randomized, obviously, map, small map at normal difficulty, just to get the hang of the game. I'm playing as some African tribe. I don't remember. It was a randomized thing. You can pick, obviously, all sorts of leaders with different benefits and deficits. And, so far, so good. I think it's a really, really, really great game. I don't have in-depth knowledge. I'm in the mid-game, really, so I don't really have in-depth knowledge of the end game. Obviously, you can win in a bunch of different ways, a scientific win, you can have a military victory, etc., and so on. The AI doesn't seem very smart or savvy, but I am playing on a lower difficulty level. And it's kind of cool just to investigate from a Civilization fan, more of a newer Civilization fan's perspective, the different civilizations that you can build and the leaders you can have. So, and kind of their benefits and their deficits or whatever. So I dig it so far. I'm looking forward to getting back into it. I wish that my laptop ran it a little more stably. It runs it stably. I just don't know that a laptop should be as hot as this laptop is getting.
They made for it. It's just how things go.
So, because like we played Battlefield 1 on these laptops at high settings, and it wasn't like that at all. So I feel like it's, Civilization isn't necessarily graphically intensive, although it is in its own way, but it is very processing intensive.
Yeah.
If you're playing on, and I'm playing on a small map, if I'm playing on a global map with a bunch of different continents and a shit ton of different civilizations, every turn that it has to process in the turn-based kind of ecosystem, I mean, I can't imagine how intensive on the processor that is, and I'm scared of what I'm seeing now on this smaller map for my laptop. So hopefully I can figure that problem out and play more of it. But, obviously I recommend it. I think everyone knows that Civilization 6 is going to be great. And the changes that they've made might seem minor to some, and I certainly can't trace the lineage from Civilization 1, 2, 3, and 4 to 6. But from Civilization 5 to Civilization 6, there certainly are big differences. But at the same time, a very familiar game. And what I always said about Civilization 5 was, for as much as I played it, and I'm going to feel the same way about Civ 6, you never really quite know what you're doing in some ways. Like, that's the funny thing about the game, where I'm like, and I've talked to people about this and they share that, where I'm like, the game is so complicated and so complex that you understand what you're doing and, building units, researching science, creating your civics and your religion, and kind of crafting your society. But at the same time, you're quite not really, at least, I'm not really like sure, like, is this really the right thing I'm supposed to be doing right now? I don't really know, should I go for animal husbandry or should I go for pottery? You don't.
These are the choices you have to decide.
These are the hard choices.
One cool thing that I don't think was in Civ 5 that I think is really cool too is that, so you for people that are familiar with Civ, they know you learn your science and all sorts of things, and it takes time. It's all turn based. So like you can say like I want to learn shipbuilding, so it's going to take me 14 turns to learn shipbuilding, which is in the game hundreds of years, and you basically are able to like take those 14 turns, but it will only take 7 turns if you have founded a city on the coast. So like the game will like you have like this big schematic, obviously as civilization games do, of like this science leads to three sciences, which leads to these 9 sciences, and so on and so forth. And you start like branching off, and it'll tell you like it'll take 14 turns unless you do this, or it'll take 10 turns or 30 turns unless you do this thing. Unless you kill 3 barbarian hordes, unless you create a trade route with a neighboring city or something like that. So I like that little thing too, because then it makes you think a little more strategically about how you're investing in science. Because, for instance, I skipped shipbuilding and then actually went out of my way to build a city on the coast so that I would save those turns, and went and researched something more advanced. But again, I play it at a very elementary level, I think, compared to the people that are like really, really, really into Civ 6. And I just saw that a professional esports company of some sort, the first Civ 6 professional player was signed to a contract, which I thought was weird. I'm like, who the fuck is watching this? Civ 6 is like who the hell is possibly watching that stuff? But anyway, those are my early thoughts. I think it's really, really cool.
I have questions.
You go for it.
First off, too, for transparency's sake, we did videos with Civ 6 as well, hosting and interviewing stuff, so everything with a grain of salt. Do you recommend it for noobs, people just jumping in?
It seems no more or less complicated than Civilization 5 in its own way. So yes and no. I mean, I jumped into Civ 5 and I had no idea what the fuck was going on, but I think you'll know pretty quickly if it's for you or not. Yeah. Like everyone out there, I think that I was so into the minutia of like, create your government, and you can only you can be like kind of religious or kind of like autocratic, but you can't be both, or like you can't, like you can be warfaring, or you can be mercantile, or you can do all sorts of things. Like when I started following, and then it's like the science things, like how you draw from like masonry to building a spaceship, is really cool. And I like the idea of like, depending on how you research, because it's all based on like real themes and real eras. So like you can reach the Renaissance in 800, literally 400 years, 500 years before the Renaissance began, if you're doing things right, and I loved that. So if you're into that sort of thing, or you could be really late, you could be in like 1900 fighting on horseback, like depending on how things go. So I like that particular thing. So if that kind of thing strikes you, then it's a fine place, I think, to jump in. But if not, then I don't think you should play Civilization at all. I don't think that necessarily this is any different on a core way than 5 was, at least to me. I'm sure the Civilization nerds out there see many more differences than I do, but I don't see that many differences.
Yeah, it's one of those franchises that it seems really daunting, and it is, because like you were saying, like it's super complicated, but it's definitely not my type of franchise. But I played Civ 4 and I got addicted for a while, and I had to cut myself off, where I'm just like, I can't. Like, this is gonna be a bad thing if I have to put this much time into this, just because like I was like, it was a point in my life where I'm like, I need to be focusing on school and work and shit then. But for you being so addicted to Civ 5 and putting as many hours as you did, like all these games kind of hit us at different times in our lives. Do you think that you'll put as many hours into Civ 6, or do you think that this is going to be more of kind of like a nice little step back into the world for a little bit just to get a taste and then bounce out?
Remains to be seen. I mean, I think it's like a perfect football game. Like on Sundays, I'll sit on the couch as I will this Sunday, for the entire day from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. and watch football. And when Civ 5 came out, that's all I did was sit on the couch and play it. Like I put the mouse on the arm of the couch and just sit there and watch TV or whatever. And it was one of those games where I hadn't had an experience like this in quite some time, where I really did lose track of time. I'm constantly looking at the clock when I'm playing games, because I don't want to spend like my entire fucking day playing a video game. But it was one of those things where I just forgot, and then I looked up and it was 2 a.m. or something. I'm like, oh shit, like, well, here we are, So it is one of those games. I agree. It's acutely addictive to people that well, I guess any game can be addictive. I mean, I was addicted to Tetris at one point in my life. Like but it is acutely addictive to people that think the way I think and like the things I like, in terms of, and maybe you felt the same way, in terms of like just, it's a game all about gaming the system as best you can. It's like that's really what it is. It's like how much production can you possibly eke out of these people? How much gold can you possibly get a turn to start buying tiles or buying units, or just saving it or using it to buy people off? Or can you get into a fight with this other country and then make them pay you reparations for 50 turns?
Yeah.
And then you just have all this money coming in. Or like, are you going to get pincered and attacked? Do you attack the wrong country? And especially if you're running on higher difficulty levels, and then you get fucked. You're not paying attention to the other side of the map. You might not even really know what's going on the other side of the map. You notice that these guys have an air force and it's 1,700. How the fuck is that possible? And they can just level you, So, and the chase for the bomb, or the chase for the space, in the space race and getting into space, which is a way to win the game. So I think that it definitely has the makings of that. The thing about Civ 5, I think it came out at a certain time where it has all the same trappings as Civ 6, but it also came out at a time, as far as I recall, where there wasn't much else I wanted to play. The unfortunate thing for Civ 6 is that there's plenty of other games I want to play right now. So I think it's going to be one of those games similar to Civ 5 where I don't even remember, like, I use Steam so seldom that I think I've downloaded Civilization and I think I bought it like 3 different times. Because I'm like, I don't even remember I don't even know what the fuck email address is attached to. I have no idea. I'll just go make a new Steam account and buy the game again. So like the old game probably had 40 hours and then the next one had 20 hours. Then the new one, I bought it and I got the expansion and all sorts of things like that. It just speaks to me in a very specific way. Mm-hmm. And so now I'm a little smarter now. Now I have my name, so I have, but the only games I was looking at my list, the only games I have are Civilization games. I have like Beyond Earth or whatever. I have Civ 5. I have all the DLC of Civ 6. That's good enough. So I recommend it. I think people that know and like Civ already know about Civ 6. I don't think you need anyone to tell you to buy it. As far as I'm concerned, I think I have more to explore and more to jump into. I think that there's much for me to learn. I like reading about the game a lot too and learning how to play it better, because for as much time as I've put into it, I've not put in as much time into a game and been so ignorant about it at the same time. Like where it's like there really are systems. Like if you can jump into these grids and these spreadsheets and all this shit where I'm like, I have no idea what the fuck any of this is. And they do hide them from me because I don't think anyone knows what they really are. But like you can like go in and like really look at your economy and be like, I don't but managing farms and luxury items, so your people get really fucking upset if you take a capital city or another city from another country, they fucking hate you, and you have to do things to like make them happy, like give them luxury items, give them entertainment.
The wonders are a big part of that too, right? Making them happy in this game. I remember them talking
very
about
cool,
that.
So I think folks out there will like it. And is it a good foray into Civ? I don't see why it's a bad foray into Civ. I don't think there is such a thing as a good foray into Civ. It seems like it's complicated.
Are you going for military victories? Or are you going?
I almost always go for military victories, because for the way I work, it's the way that I understand the most. Like I just don't have the pedigree with this particular game, or maybe even the ability to think deep enough in this particular way to craft. I mean, you can get a scientific victory pretty easily or something like that, but you can win in like weird ways. Like I think there's a way to win religiously. That's fun, but that's like so nuanced. Like I can understand like bludgeoning people with bombs, pretty easily. Of
course you can.
America. but I also try to play. Sometimes I play games totally passively, totally like in a mercantilist kind of like trade way, and just be like, I don't want any problems with anyone, But if someone like fucks with me, then you fucking crush them.
That was one of the cool things from when I was doing the interviews and getting to see the game so long ago. Was like I wanted them always to pick Teddy Roosevelt and go through and beat him, and you were talking about earlier the pros and cons of it. But as you expand out that map, I really like the Fog of War where the map fills in and goes from just being like looking like a normal map to being colorful and you seeing what's happening. But when you run into Cleopatra, like deciding how you talk to her, let alone then also what your stats are already, because she'll look at you differently if you're a military super strong or weak or something like that. The interplay between people and like Gandhi and stuff, that's really interesting.
My dude.
Yeah, like and the cool thing about the game too, I mean, this is diplomacy. It's like Molotov Ribbentrop or whatever that guy's name is, the German Russian agreement, like non-aggression agreement that the Germans just broke and just invaded Russia anyway. Like you can have things like that in this particular game. Molotov Ribbentrop. That's what it is.
You're just saying words.
Mutton chop. They was the short name for it. Basically, the Russians and the Soviets and the Nazis got together in the 30s and were like, we're not going to fuck with each other. And there was even some invitation to have everyone be in the same Axis powers, which obviously Russia ended up being into. And then the Nazis were just like, we're just going to invade anyway. Well, you can do shit like that in the game if you want. Like, you can have open borders and agree to have open borders with someone and just stage troops inside and then just start attacking them. That's not going to work out well for you if they have other allies and stuff, but you can play the game in a very bold way like that if you want. So I think I like it. The game lets you do what you want, and I think it's really cool. And I think what I was disappointed in when I played Civ Rev 2 Plus on Vita was I was like, it's just not deep enough. Like I played it very like for a very cursory kind of way, but I'm like, it's just not deep enough.
It's not Civ.
Yeah, like
Civ is minutia.
Yeah, it's all the little things. Like it's cool to look at the top of the screen and see plus signs with numbers after everything because you're doing really well. You're getting faith, you're getting culture, you're getting money, you're getting all sorts of things, prestige, but I don't know. But there's also much to learn. For as much as I play Civ, I also read. I'll go jump into the forums, and I don't have an account there, but I read. I'm like
lurking,
just because like there are people that really know how to play this game.
Oh yeah,
and I don't after all these scores of hours basically with it. So, but nonetheless, it was really cool. It snuck up on me too. 2K didn't make the game available early to a lot of people, and so. It was just floating out there. Like, and then the code just popped in my inbox. I was like, fucking A, man. Like, here it is.
It's time.
It's fantastic. You know, so.
There you go. The next topic, I want to talk about Bethesda and game reviews.
A hot topic.
Here's a statement from Bethesda themselves. At Bethesda, we value media reviews. We read them, we watch them, we try to learn from them when they offer critique, and we understand their value to our players. Earlier this year, we released Doom. We sent review copies to arrive the day before launch, which led to speculation about the quality of the game. Since then, Doom has emerged as a critical and commercial hit and is now one of the highest rated shooters of the past few years. With the upcoming launches of Skyrim Special Edition and Dishonored 2, we will continue our policy of sending media review copies one day before release. While we will continue to work with media, streamers, and YouTubers to support their coverage, but before and after release, we want everyone, including those in media, to experience our games at the same time. We also understand that some of you want to read reviews before you make your decision, and if that's the case, we encourage you to wait for your favorite reviewers to share their thoughts. Skyrim Special Edition releases globally on October 28th for PlayStation, blah, 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 blah. Yeah.
They played us like a fiddle. Bringing out that Doom. Everybody's like, is it going to work? Is it going to be bad? Oh my God, it's amazing. Maybe things are changing. Maybe getting a game the day before review or the embargo or release isn't the end of the world. And then they're like, we're going to roll the dice. You'll never know what's happening anymore with Bethesda. And they're laughing all the way to the bank.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the conspiracy theorist in me says that this was the intention for a long time that Bethesda was going to do this. That Doom was intentionally the first game to do it with because they knew Doom was great. They're not stupid. They made it seem based on trends in gaming for years. We've been in this industry for a long time that when you get a game close to or at release, it's typically terrible. It's not even typically like okay. It's typically a bad game.
Yeah, they're hiding it. They don't want you to know. They don't want you to cancel your pre-order. They don't want the reviews to get in the way.
So call me a conspiracy theorist if you might. That's fine. But I think that was intentional that they did. That they did that with Doom, and I tweeted that after this. That said that it was actually a stroke of genius on their part because it sowed perpetual seeds of doubt in people's minds on if now a game being given a day before release or at release is going to be bad. Now we don't know. Like with Bethesda, we just don't know now. And actually, we were just talking about 2K. 2K is the same. Civ 6 and Mafia 3 were both held until right before release, and Civ 6 was awesome. Mafia, not so much. So again, they're sowing the seeds. I think it's a very deliberate and from a business standpoint, a very smart thing for them to do. I see a lot of people talking about this as anti-consumer, and I simply don't agree. There are three parties to this. There's the publisher / developer, there's the media / influencer / whatever, and then there's the gamer. This is a plus for publishers and developers. This is a negative for media and like YouTubers and stuff, and it's completely neutral for gamers. That's the way I look at it. The only way that this would really affect you as a gamer is if you absolutely, positively must buy a game at launch. And for that, I say that's your problem. Like these guys are controlling their games. They have every right to do that. It's going to hurt media. It's going to hurt clicks. It's going to hurt impressions. It's going to hurt reviews. It's going to hurt that ecosystem. And there's a lot of hand-wringing about that. And then everyone's saying, well, it's anti-consumer. And I'm like, no, it's not. No one's forcing you to buy the game. Just wait. It says it right here. No, I'm not trying to be an apologist for them, but it says it. We also understand that some of you want to read reviews before you make a decision. And if that's the case, we encourage you to wait for your favorite reviewers to share their thoughts. Wait. Like, I don't get it. I don't.
It's change. It's the internet reacting to change, and it never ever responds well to change, regardless if it's a good change or a bad change. If it's a season pass or if it's just DLC, everyone freaks out and the sky is falling, and that's just the latest one here. I give them credit for coming out and saying this is our thing, rather than just quietly continuing to not put out the games until the day before, and every time have IGN and Kotaku and X-Site put up a thing of like, here's why you're not getting our review on time, here's what's happening. They're coming out and they're saying that, all right, cool, the market has changed, landscape has changed, this is how we're doing it. You're making a great point that, yeah, no one's putting a gun to anybody's head to pre-order to go out and do this. Like, nope. You should be able to wait. And I understand that, again, though, is a change from the culture we live in. Yeah. The culture we live in is people screenshotting their PS4 with the countdown clock of how until this game unlocks, right? And for me, it's the way I deal with movies, right? There's a lot of movies I want to see. There's a lot of things we'll go see at midnight to go do reacts for. But if I'm interested in a movie, but I'm not going to see it at midnight, I'll wait through opening weekend, see what my friends say, see what reviews say before I go invest hours into that, right? Yeah. Granted, that's just 2 hours versus the everlasting gobstopper that is Skyrim.
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting because I feel like there's valid points on every side of this because something needs to be said about the media now. Like, what's the quality of the reviews going to be? We were all at IGN. We know how that works, and we know And I'm interested in what you think about this. It's just like, so now they have a day to review it, which is...
They have longer than a day. They have as much time as they want to take.
But that's the problem, is because of the ecosystem of the minus to the media is that they need to get the views. They need to get the clicks. They need to be the first to put a review up. Like there is an absolute thing of who's first, who's second, who's third. And then when you're the 10th person putting up a review, it doesn't matter. Who it doesn't affect is people like us. Whereas we're just going to play it when we want to play it and how we want to play it and discuss it, you know?
Well, I disagree that it doesn't affect us. I mean, I was talking about this to someone yesterday because people were like being like, well, why are you defending these corporations? I'm like, I'm not necessarily. I'm saying where they're coming from. I'm not defending it. I want to be very clear. Like, if I was a publisher, I'm not sure that I would want to do this, yet I understand the business rationale behind it. And it probably does nothing but benefit them to do this.
Oh my God, 100%.
But it is not their problem. It is not Bethesda's problem if GameSpot can't get their review up in time. They don't care. Like, and it's becoming clear that like these publishers are caring less and less about traditional media as time goes on, right? But it does materially affect us because it might take us a week now. We might have had Mafia 3 impressions earlier than we did, which might have saved some problems, especially because the game wasn't very good. But that's, again, not their problem. This is why I'm saying that this is a total neutral effect on gamers. Like, you don't have to pre-order games. You don't have to play the game the day that it comes out. You don't. If you keep saying that you have to, then frankly, you're the one that they're trying to prey upon. Like, what
it comes down to with this is this says that they did research. There is data that backs up that positive reviews don't matter. Negative reviews do matter. So it's just like, you know, why would they, you know, kind of work with that when they could make more money? They're a business.
And it's the thing, I mean, like, to the point that I think you bring up that for me is a big one, right? Is like the reviews will suffer. My problem with that argument is, and this is me throwing a stone at the IGN I worked at that I was a part of. IGN, we had Skyrim originally before release. No one caught that the PlayStation 3 version was bugged, because that's not how you review games. You review one, you play an hour of the other versions. You're like, all right, graphics are a little less, whatever, It's not, there isn't a scientific process. There isn't this checks and balances. There isn't a red team. It is. And I think what this is a reflection of is the fact that the jig is up on a lot of those sites, that the jig is up on the traditional games journalism module, right? Like, if you're one of the people that they're talking about here, right, of like, okay, don't pre-order, just wait for your favorite person to do it. Watching a Twitch stream for 30 minutes to make sure it's running fine, that it is Skyrim you remember, or Dishonored 2 is going to look cool and have cool things. That gives you enough information to go out and pre-order in that second, instantly, on your PlayStation, on Steam, whatever. You're wherever you are, you're a click or a button press away from going to get that game. And you don't need necessarily, unless you're that person or that reviewer, I do want to see what Lucy O'Brien says about this game 40 hours from now. And that's what they're talking about and what the new market is.
And you can wait. That's the thing, is like, and that's why, like, the ironic thing to me is a lot of that, like, the vast majority of the hand wringing and the fucking dying on the Twitter crosses that I was seeing about this were from games media, not from gamers. You know, like, I made my point clear. Some people disagree with it. Most people actually agreed with it completely, because I was just like, there seems to be shady ass business shit going on one side. Obviously, you know, they have a fiduciary obligation to their shareholders, or if they're privately held, to whoever holds, when we are shareholders of our company. They don't care. They want to make money. That's all they care about. Like, people are absolutely delusional if they think that these guys are making games for art. They're making games because they want to make money, right? So they're, like you said, they're looking at the data and they say, well, Fallout 4 was probably what they were looking at, frankly. And they were like, we got that game out in October. That gave everyone enough time to craft their things, whether they liked it or not. Some people really liked it. Some people thought it was okay or whatever. It probably damaged the game. And they probably looked at that and was like, we don't have to do that anymore. Like, we're not going to do that anymore. Especially, and they can get away with it Skyrim because it's a known quantity. Dishonored 2 is not going to be the depth of an open world RPG. But to me, like, the hand wringing and the dying on the cross over this really comes from a disingenuous place, in my opinion. And I'm talking about we're part of the media. We are a segment of this games press. We are, in our own way. You're afraid of losing clicks. You're afraid of losing prestige. You don't want to be like second, third, or fourth, or fifth, like you were saying. You like the old days of everyone going at the same time. And my argument to that is, that's fine. I appreciate that and I respect that. But no one owes you anything. So, like, they don't owe your audience anything.
The game's
They don't
changed.
owe this audience anything. They don't owe us. We don't have Dishonored. We don't have any of these games. We're probably not going to play them anyway. But, like, you know, when Fallout 5 comes out, or Elder Scrolls 6 is probably going to be first, and we get that game the day of, it's like, well, that sucks for us because we're really excited about it. We really want to play. We want to share our thoughts. But it's their game. It doesn't really affect the bottom line for them, and it probably only benefits them. And it really only affects gamers because they're impatient. because of the pre-order culture, because no one wants to, like, you know, if you really want to wait, they said, like, if you know you're going to like Dishonored, you like Dishonored, you're going to buy Dishonored 2, go buy it. I'm sure it's going to be great. If you can't wait a week for people to get their stuff up, then that's fine, then don't. But that's not their problem, you know? Like, and that's, I hate to say it, but it's from their point of view, smart business. Whether or not we agree with it or not as gamers, whether or not we agree with it as media, to me, I just feel like it's all for naught. Like, they're protecting their products as best as they can. And part of me feels like I don't really blame them, because there is a lot of negativity. Sometimes we spout it. Sometimes other people spout it about a lot of games, you know, so they can get Dishonored 2 out there a week before, so everyone can prepare their how Dishonored 2 sexist piece or whatever the fuck they're going to do to assassinate it. You know, like I get it. I get the conundrum of the PR.
The big thing about it, though, I think that is interesting, that you keep saying we're part of it, we're in media, and it would hurt us. I don't think it would, because we're that next generation of what games press, games media, whatever you want to call it, is, right? In the way that we've built an audience, that's you out there, the viewer, the listener, that is totally down for us to talk about, first off, the few hours of Civ you've played. We're way past the Battlefield embargo when we talk about it. People are here because they like our opinion. They don't care how relevant it is. We're not really chasing it, you know, in terms of, like, we put up the Titanfall thing and we put it up with the embargo of everybody else, but that's because they offered that to Alfredo, and it didn't do remarkably better than any of our other content, right? It's because we have the same audience coming back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. The games press that are freaking out about it are the ones that are seeing it change. Their business model changed, right? And being drastically different. And where does that leave a GameSpot and IGN, a GameSite X that for years has been built on? We will have the review as early as possible, as quickly as possible, so you can make an informed decision.
Yeah.
Whereas now the informed decision is, if you're a kind of funny person, maybe you wait to see if we like it or not, right? Like Oceanhorn. Nobody, now granted, nobody was super excited about it, but when we started talking about it, and now people still talk to me about Oceanhorn every day on Twitter, and because they know that I'm interested, and that's the kind of audience we have. Whereas for an IGN, where it is like, pre-launch coverage is really big, then the day of the review, and then dramatic drop-off, unless we're talking about a wiki or something, which is a different coverage opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, I think the argument on the other side of it, reading a whole bunch of different people's opinions, is that so the same people are going to these media sites for the preview coverage, and they rely on them for preview coverage, so it's kind of like biting the hand that feeds. I mean, we've seen this kind of fall off over the last couple of years, and especially being at IGN, I brought this up, I think, recently on Colin and Greg Live when we were talking about this, but there's game developers with the ecosystem, they are now also delivering the message for whatever they want. If all of a sudden they're like, we're not giving IGN the trailer, we're not giving Game Trailer, or, you know, whoever, the game trailers, that's on them. They could put it on their own site, get millions of views. The Nintendo Switch video is a perfect example. What's it like? 20 million views? That's Nintendo. Nintendo's making money on that. Why give that to IGN when they know that they're going to cover it? They know that they're going to talk about it because those sites get the clicks from it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. The middleman's having been cut out for a long time, and it might not benefit the consumer. I mean, that's up for debate, right? But, like, from a business perspective, it makes perfect sense why Ubisoft has their own blog, why EA has their own thing going on, why Bethesda, you know, the guy who wrote this used to be the editor-in-chief of Games Radar. You know, like, now he works at Bethesda. They are getting talent to be able to get this stuff out there. Obviously, it's through the lens of a skewed publisher perspective. My only argument is, and you brought up the cycle of previewing. That's the ironic thing. That's where it hurts media, and that's why I think there's a lot of hand-wringing. The only way to fight back from their perspective is to further hurt themselves.
Right.
And that would be like, if I was editor-in-chief of Kotaku, I'd be like, fine, we're not previewing your games anymore. And I would be like, fine, we're not previewing Bethesda games anymore.
Right.
You're not going to use this as a marketing tool to get your shit out there if you're not going to give us the game at the end of the cycle.
Let me jump in here, because what I was doing is bringing up Jeff Gerstmann. He had a really interesting series of tweets. I'd like to read them from last night, right? The issue with Bethesda's review policy is that they're more than happy to use those same outlets to get the word out via preview coverage. They want it both ways. They want the wait-and-see approach that naturally comes with previews, but won't face the music at the end. Lame. Then he goes on, and somebody's like, is this a thing of who will blink first? Jeff says, this would probably just lead to more paid influencer campaigns, and I'm not sure the audience would care. They'd get the coverage elsewhere. And then somebody's like, they need to take a stand, not give them coverage. Taking a stand like that only hurts your audience. Ultimately, the job of the media is to ignore the backroom bullshit and do the job. They'd get the marketing elsewhere, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, we live in a weird hybrid thing that cares slightly less about timely reviews than traditional outlets. So I feel insulated from this. But the longtime reviews editor in me is like, fuck this, pull all previews, don't let them buy ads on our site ever again either. It's this weird mix-up, right, of how it does work. And that is the thing. Yeah, Kotaku could totally be like, fine then, fuck you, we're out. And Bethesda would be like, cool, the 30 influencers are going to beat down the door to come preview the next Skyrim, the next Fallout, the next Dishonored, that they'll come through, they'll play those, and they'll put up their videos, and they'll be 30 minutes. And again, that's always the thing that comes down to, that's interesting about pre-ordering a game, buying a game, however you want to look at it, get reviews, right? I feel like we live in a day and age, and this, of course, there's exceptions to this rule, where when I pre-order something, when I know I'm super excited for something, it's generally based on seeing a lot of footage, right? Mafia, there weren't the Let's Plays, there weren't the stuff, and we talked about that leading up to it, and the fact that we haven't seen much of this game, but there's a trailer, and that looked cool, and okay, blah, blah, blah. Granted, that game comes out, it's not what we wanted, it's not where it went. But I feel like when you're seeing somebody, like when you and I went and played Watch Dogs, and we sat down and played it for, I don't know, 2 hours or whatever, and I was like, fuck, this is fun. I don't know how it's going to come together, but I like the open world part of it. I don't know about the story or anything. I know what I'm getting into with that, and I feel like there's so many chances now for a viewer, a listener to take and think of like, all right, cool. Fucking Polygon just played 15 hours of Final Fantasy and they think it's great so far. And they put in there, maybe it all falls fucking apart. Yeah. And that's the risk you run. But even like, something as stupid as Lego Dimensions, there's all these streams out of like, what you're getting for the most part.
Exactly. I mean, I think that the sad reality of this is you paying $60 for a game doesn't guarantee that game is good. You're not paying $60 for a great experience. You're paying $60 for that game, and it's up to you to educate yourself and make those decisions. Yeah. When it comes to pre-ordering and all that, it's always been this way. You can pre-order games like I've been burned before. Devil May Cry 2 comes to mind.
Superman 64.
I pre-ordered that game. Excited for it, came in, and that was one of those things where I've told the story before, but I was at EB, and the guy I was buying it from was like, dude, you see the reviews? And he pointed at the Game Informer. I opened it up, and it was like 5.5 or whatever, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, I felt so burned. I was like, I can't believe it. I can't believe this.
Yeah.
But I mean, it happens, and I decided to pre-order the game. And I think that back then it was a little different because pre-orders
limited quantities,
and you were actually guaranteeing that your game I wanted. I've been waiting for so long, and the previews did get me hyped for it. And then I feel like over the next couple of years, there was really cool, enticing pre-order bonuses. Now we're at this place where pre-order bonuses are a norm. Pre-order, like exclusive pre-order bonuses here and there. And I feel like it's on the developers and publishers to come up with pre-order incentives that are worth it if they want us to pre-order.
The pre-order incentive nowadays, and what Colin's talking about, what we're all talking about, what the statement is talking about, isn't anymore you're getting a skin, you're getting a fanny pack, you're getting whatever. The pre-order bonus now is the fact that you get to be part of the conversation.
Yes.
We are such a culture of, I got something, let's Twitch it, let's tweet it, let's do this. How many people did we see this past Monday of recording who are like, holy fucking shit, I can't even go 12 hours without you guys spoiling The Walking Dead, because that's the kind of people we are, and that's where this fervor comes from. That's why I don't think it matters for a Skyrim. Holy fucking shit. Okay, we know Skyrim. Does it run? Can I toss a bunch of cheese wheels? But like for Dishonored 2, if you're like even vaguely interested in Dishonored, you want to be talking, you want to be twitching, you want to be doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this, there's a lot of negatives that comes with this, but I do think that there are positives. Like I remember when Watch the Throne came out, the Kanye Jay-Z album a couple years ago. It was one of the first albums in years that had the hype that it did in terms of the rap genre, and it didn't leak. The only way to get it was released on iTunes, and everybody got it at the exact same time. And the conversation around that was so different than any other thing. Yeah. Usually albums leak, people start getting it here and there, then it officially comes out, and there's like this like trickle down effect of just conversation. But what this allows is for everybody, media and just normal gamers alike, to be able to be part of that same conversation. And it's interesting, and I think that it benefits us in the long run, which excites me, because the way that we make content, it allows us to be on Twitch and live chat with people about stuff.
Well, I mean,
the Nintendo Switch announcement is a perfect example of that was an event. Yeah. This now creates events. Now it sucks that the people have to upfront make those investments if they
really want to get in there,
risk the gamble on it. But like my thing is, that's on them. They don't have to do that. And really, when it comes down to it, how many times have you guys been burned? When I was buying games, a lot. I mean, I bought hand over fist games when I was younger. That's the thing I want to use as a caveat. First of all, Kevin, can you find me a marker of some sort that I could use, please? Because we could just explain this in a visual very easily. Give me something that I can use that you can see on the camera. I don't care what it is. The instance here is that we have an ivory tower where we don't pay for a lot of our games anymore, right? And I always try to be transparent about that. So we've lost sight of that as
what $60 means.
Yeah, I know what $6 means in a vacuum, but going out there and paying for your games or whatever is a different thing, a different piece than getting most of your games for free, which we do, and that's an important thing to put it out there. But that doesn't change the fact that you don't have to. Thanks. You don't have to
That's not very nice. You don't have to be like, everyone's like, that's part of the conversation thing. I don't get it. Like, I just don't. Like, if you really don't know if the game's going to be good, just don't buy it until you know if you like it or not. What is the big deal? Like, I don't, we wait for years for these games. You can wait a week if you are really that concerned if Dishonored 2 is good. And that's the only thing I'm trying to say. Like, everyone's trying to pass the buck, and that's fine. And I'm not saying Bethesda's acting in a righteous way. They're acting in a selfish way. But they're a business, and that's what businesses do.
Well, to the business argument of it, right? This is actually a solution to the problem we saw so much through the PS3 generation and a bit to the PS4 generation, where we used to get games in the review embargo for these PlayStation exclusives would pop 2 Fridays before release. And what that does is fucks everything up, is what we see all the time, right? When we're like, if we're going to launch a shirt, we want you to go be able to go get the shirt right away, because in that moment you're like, oh, that's cool, I want to go get it. Whereas if you read a review 2 weeks out, 3 days out, you're less likely to remember that it's out this Tuesday, it's out this Friday or whatever. So to be part of that like whirlwind conversation that all of a sudden it is Titanfall weekend, even Titanfall's been buried to an extent of like Monday the review embargo post, but you can't buy it till Friday.
Yeah, that's a really good point. You know, the call to action is so important to be able to tell somebody, act now on this. And for the reviews to come out after the game is out, whether it's good or bad, you can get it right then.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing of like, it used to be like, okay, like I forget which Uncharted, probably Uncharted 3, because that was the one, right? The review embargo was, okay, the Tuesday morning that it's going to come out anyway. And you're like, man, that sucks. Why are you afraid? It's not that they're afraid. They want everybody to remember that they can go get this game right fucking now. You can pick this game up right now if you were waiting for reviews, you were waiting for something.
Man, very interesting. How's this coming, Cole?
So
do you want to go overhead cam?
Oh, we go overhead cam?
Do you need me to do the zoomy zooms?
No.
Okay, don't touch it, he says.
So this is it. Sales time, right? Week 1, your sales start to crescendo. Week 2, they start to fall off. The review window used to be right here, meaning that this now could be, if the reviews are bad, this establishes a new norm that's more like down here, right? And then it falls off like this. Now they're trying to get the review window in here. It's too late. They've already crescendoed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This, from this perspective, makes perfect business sense. We're fighting against a rational way to try to make money from people. Now you can try to fight that, right? You can try to fight that, and there are really great ways, and I think ways that might be Pyrrhic, but are ways that you can fight. And I said already with the media, I would say like if you're not going to give us the games early ahead of time, then we're not previewing your games. That might hurt us, but if everyone got together and did that, that would hurt the company, right? It's just that no one can stand firm on this. It's the same thing I always said about punishing publishers. You didn't like Mass Effect 3's ending? Don't buy EA games.
Yeah. See, I think the impetus is on the consumers here, honestly. Because what you're talking about with the media is what Gershman was talking about with the backroom bullshit. That's backroom bullshit. Like, you know what I mean? Like, every game site's different, every company's different. I'm not trying to put them in, but for us, right? Like, if it was, if we were super offended about not getting the games way early, I would still say, well, let's preview them, let's do this. We're trying to provide a service to our audience. This is for our audience. It's not about that. We've had plenty of things we don't talk about. Not even, I don't think here, but like a little bit here, where we've been mad at a developer, or not a developer, a publisher that has been weird to us or whatever. And IGN happened all the time. There was something you didn't like somebody, or this had happened, I don't want to take that out on the consumer. I don't want to take that out on who I'm doing, right? If I had a falling out tomorrow with the Lego people, but I still like the Lego games, I'd want to talk about the Lego games. I'd want to serve that need for people.
I respect that. I do agree with you that there is more of an impetus on the consumer.
The consumer, if you guys would wait and you did stop pre-ordering, and you not only stop pre-ordering, you tweet, like when somebody, developer publisher X tweets out, hey, pre-order now at games, you're like, I'm not going to pre-order. I wouldn't pre-order this until I'm not buying this till I see a review. And people actually did that and stuck to that. Right. And they saw what you're talking about here, where all of a sudden there was a new timeline, right? Where sales come out and they start here or whatever, and then they are this, and then the reviews happen, and then, you know what I mean? Like, if reviews window was still there and they were able to see a real change, then it would push people back, maybe.
I agree. I think that this goes back. I think pre-ordering hardware is totally fine. We talked about this in the past. I think you should pre-order hardware because the hardware is the conduit by which for years you will play your game. So I don't think there's any shame in that. But in the digital ecosystem, and in an ecosystem where frankly games are not rare, even in retail, you don't need to pre-order a game. Now some people use the argument that, well, I get a discount at Amazon, and for that I say, you get that discount for 2 fucking weeks after the game comes out. So no, you don't have to pre-order the game. You know, be patient. Stop giving these publishers money before they even give you anything. Like, I don't understand why people keep doing this. I don't get it. So you can get some fucking skins, you know, that they'll probably just sell 6 months later anyway. And so you can be the beta tester before they get their first patch out, basically, because that's what games are coming to. It's just, this is a wake-up call to the gamer. And I agree with you there. The publisher is doing what's rational for the business to do. The media is wringing its hands because it hurts their business. In the middle is a group that can actually affect some sort of change. Stop pre-ordering your games and put your money where your mouth is. If you want fewer bad games and you want publishers to take you seriously, stop forking your money over hand over fist. And that's exactly what I said on Twitter. I'll critique or criticize almost any game and get shit for it because these publishers know that a lot of gamers will buy fucking anything. And that's the bottom line. Bethesda looked at the things and was like, you will buy it anyway. You know? Mm-hmm. And we're not gonna have this bad review effect that gives us a new lower baseline. Now we destroy the baseline because of the trend that games sell most of their copies in the first 2 or 3 weeks anyway. And then it's over. Then the game might as well be dead for some games. You know? Being part of this conversation to me is dubious. It's weird. And people that are afraid of spoilers, just avoid them. You know? Like no one's walking up to you at your cubicle and being like, Nathan Drake's dead. That's not a real spoiler, by the way. You know?
Or is it?
You find that on YouTube, you find it on Twitter, or whatever. If you're really that afraid about it, just stay away from those places. You know what I mean? So people have to take a little bit of responsibility for their own actions and how their own actions led to this. And by that I mean Bethesda's statement. Like, this didn't happen in a vacuum. This happened. Bethesda's not dumb. Pete Hines, not a dumb man. You know, they look at the marketing, they look at the way games are affected, they look at Doom, they look at Skyrim, I'm sure is going to be great. I'm sure Dishonored 2 is going to be just fine. So, and I mean that from a critical standpoint. And they look at traditional reviewers and they look at who's selling their games and who butters their bread, and it's not GameSpot. You know, they do more harm than good to them. I'm not saying that they're doing a service to gamers. What I'm saying is that I think the effect is way more neutral if you would just act as a rational consumer. That's it. They're not saying like, the statement doesn't read, if you review Skyrim Special Edition, you're going to prison. You know? It says like, you're just not going to be able to review it in a way that you are used to, which is at embargo, which is at release, with a fast and quick kind of nature. Now you just have to be more patient. That means that you all out there have to be patient. We have to be patient. Everyone has to be a little more patient. It's not ideal, but it is the situation we're finding ourselves in. And as we said, they're not the only ones doing it. 2K's doing it, and they're not even talking about it. You know, Bethesda, as you said, at least they admitted that that's exactly what they're doing. And maybe they'll stop. Maybe they'll then analyze the data from their 3 releases this year and be like this for Wolfenstein, for Evil Within and 2, whatever. They're like, maybe we made the mistake. We can maybe button it up a little bit. But I think that people are acting, I think that the service to the readers thing, I think that that's fine and that's good and that's where it is. But I don't think that's really at the heart of why media is upset. The heart of why media is upset is because it cuts them out, it hurts their business, and it hurts their clout, which is how they make their money. And I wish that there would be a little more transparency about that. And Bethesda should maybe on their point be a little more transparent too and be like, reviews hurt us. But at the end of the day, they want your money. So just stop giving it to them. If you really hate this, what Bethesda do, don't buy Bethesda games. But it's hard to put your money where your mouth is, where you're in such an enthusiast kind of ecosystem and sphere that like you'll just, a lot of people just buy anything. And so it takes a little bit, you know, you got to, this is a wake-up call. This is a klaxon sounding very loudly in everyone's ears about where pre-order culture got us and where these early embargoes got us and where all these kinds of things and the game of expectations and the game of entitlement. And not entitlement on the form of gamers and not entitlement even on the form of publishers, but an entitlement on people getting games earlier and being the tastemaker and losing that power.
Yeah, it's being democratized, right?
That's where I stand.
This is the change we're talking about, where it is moving to the Twitch person. It is moving to PewDiePie. It is moving to someone who is waiting with the pre-order already done, the countdown clock hits, and their Twitch stream is live, like we've done with WWE or Batman Arkham Knight or something, where it's like, that's how we'll jump in, and you can see at your own discretion if this game's good or bad.
Like, and it goes back to the point I was making. Uncharted 4 is one of the great games of the year, right? Arguably the best game of the year. Uncharted 4 is still great right now. It's just as great right now as it was when it came out in April, right? Like, this conversation, this rush to be first, all these things doesn't make Uncharted better. You know, you being an informed consumer and waiting for those reviews makes you smarter. That's all. And so you have to keep those things in mind. I took a little while to watch Stranger Things, right? It was just as good as the people that watched it the first night it came out. You know, so I just don't understand that particular argument of being part of the conversation, of having to play it first. I saw a thing on PlayStation Profiles. I was looking at the World of Final Fantasy trophies where a guy wrote this post being like how he was confused and didn't understand how people got the game early and how he doesn't want to play it anymore because he wasn't part of like the first wave of people competing for the Platinum Trophy. And I'm like, that's so dumb. And everyone's response has said that, but in my mind, I'm like, that is stupid. You either enjoy the game or you don't. The game is a fucking disc or a piece of digital media. It's not reacting to the time in which it is played. And I just
I
don't.
think we're getting into a different topic here because I think we should put that down because I don't necessarily disagree with you in terms of Uncharted 4 is just as great now, but being able to talk to everybody in that water cooler moment is cool too.
Absolutely. Next topic. The voice acting situation. Colin,
SAG-AFTRA.
you got some papers. You got some notes.
You asked me to do a little research for you, so I just printed out a few things. 3 things in particular. We'll read through them. But so basically, what's going on is that voice actors that are represented by SAG-AFTRA, which is a union, Screen Actors Guild union, have gone on strike. This is fewer than 25% of games are affected by this in terms of the voice actors from this being involved in those games. So I don't really know how significant of a strike this is, to be perfectly frank. But on SAG-AFTRA's own website, this is their call to action, right? This is what they say. This is what the unions say. Why they're going on strike. And here it says why we strike. Very
Overhead cam.
Says SAG-AFTRA tried for more than 19 months to negotiate a new deal with employers in the video game industry. Meanwhile, performers have been governed by the more than 2-decade-old contracts still in place. That has left voice actors without the protections necessary to work in the modern video game industry. Quote, SAG-AFTRA has gone to the negotiations table with serious concerns affecting voiceover and stunt performers. It's time for video game employers to take our concerns seriously and negotiate a modern contract based on actor safety, industry precedent, and best practices. End quote. And that's according to Chief Contracts Officer Ray Rodriguez from SAG-AFTRA. And then Kathy Farley, a voice actor, casting director, and voice director who chairs SAG-AFTRA's interactive committee, said, quote, SAG-AFTRA doesn't want to strike. Who does? But we cannot stand by and watch our members suffer serious injury and put their careers at risk in the current environment. The time is now for contracts of our members. So, first of all, they're going after a select few publishers and developers. Amongst them, Activision, Disney, EA, Insomniac is one of them, which is interesting.
Spider-Man.
Take-Two, WB. And some others you haven't never heard of.
See, I think, real quick for context, I think that's why the 25% matters. Is the fact there's tons of voice actors, but how many voice actors are working on the AAA huge games? We're talking about Nolan North. We're talking about Troy Baker. We're talking about Travis Willingham. We're talking about people who are SAG.
Sure. And it says, what does the strike mean for you? A strike means withholding your services from employers who are not willing to agree to the terms and conditions that you and your fellow members are insisting upon. It is this ultimate show of solidarity that allows us to achieve difficult gains in your contract. You may continue to work in other non-struck areas, but your membership obligates you to not render services on struck games. The success of a strike will depend not only on members honoring the strike order, but also on showing their support. So please see what you can do now, which we're not going to read about. They've identified, I think I might have thrown the last paper away. No, I guess not. They've identified 4 major issues.
You're talking about the companies? There's Insomniac
No,
games.
he was talking about the issues of why they're striking.
What are the issues? There are 4 of them. Secondary compensation. Unlike many other SAG-AFTRA contracts, there is currently not a secondary compensation structure on any video games. We're asking for a reasonable performance bonus for every 2 million copies or downloads sold, or 2 million unique subscribers to online-only games, with a cap at 8 million units or subscribers. That shakes out to potentially 4 session payments per principal performer for the most successful games. 2 million, 4 million, 6 million, and 8 million copies. Producers hide important information. Transparency is lacking in the video game industry. Actors need to know more about the projects that they are working on. SAG-AFTRA has proposed that the actual title of the project and the role being hired for should be made available before signing a contract. Video game employers routinely engage performers without identifying the role or even the game that the performer is being engaged to work on. Moreover, they refuse to provide basic information about the nature of the performance that will be expected of them. This deprives the performer of the ability to make a meaningful decision about whether to accept a role or to negotiate appropriate compensation, if they do. Precedent is on our side here. You wouldn't work on a TV show, commercial, or film without knowing what part you're playing and how it fits into the story. Yet we are asked over and over again to do this in interactive media. Employers are not taking you seriously is number 3. It says the employers have said no to most of SAG-AFTRA's proposals and haven't taken these negotiations seriously. For instance, in response to our concerns about vocal safety, they offered to put more tea and water in the booths for the actors, something they already do, and this doesn't resolve the issues or protects the actors. And then they go into saying that the original SAG-AFTRA interactive contract was originally written in 1994.
And video games have changed, right? That's what they're talking about when they're talking about secondary compensation, the number of units that are being sold. When they're talking about getting higher, you know, as you talk to any of the guys we bring in here, right? You're going out for Batman. You don't know you're going out for Batman in the Batman game until super late because you're told that you're this shadowy character, this, that, and the other. And, you know, you're working with Warner Brothers. That could be a million different things, right? And of course, yeah, now they're talking about with the voice acting stuff, the fact of how crazy they make you act your voice. And then, of course, the stunts that are involved when you put on a mocap ball suit.
So to present the other side of the argument, the video game industry released their own information about these problems, these issues. And this came out on the 24th, so this was several days after the strike began. And this information comes from PR Newswire, so just a Newswire, PR releases. And it says, video game companies today release copies of the company's and the union's last proposals, which show that the companies matched SAG-AFTRA's request for wages, benefits, and additional compensation before the union called it strike. The documents also show that the companies and the union had reached to collaboratively investigate vocal stress issues during the term of the next contract. Quote, these proposals exchanged across the table prove that companies and SAG-AFTRA have largely agreed on the significant issues before us, except for the label we have placed on the additional compensation, which would be paid above and beyond our proposed 9% pay increase. The documents also demonstrate that the companies value performers and reached agreements with the union in the issues of vocal stress. That's according to Scott J. Whitland of the law firm who's negotiating for the video game companies. When Whitland reiterated that the companies have been impressed by the research presented by SAG-AFTRA into the issue of vocal stress, the companies attempted to address the concerns raised by SAG-AFTRA bargaining committee during negotiations by offering performers innovative working arrangements, including split sessions and multiple performer sessions. But those proposals were rejected by SAG-AFTRA. Quote, among their proposals, the companies offered to split a 4-hour recording session into 2 2-hour portions, with the second session to be performed within 5 days of the first session to ease the stress of performers. But this and other offers were rejected by SAG-AFTRA. This is an area that the parties have agreed to continue to collaboratively investigate during the term of the next contract. Exploring ways to further improve working conditions is something both sides should be committed to, the lawyer said. So the things that, and I know this is going on, but I do want to present the other side. It's important. So this is what the gaming industry said that they've done. They've offered a 9% wage hike. The companies exceeded the union's request for a 3% raise over each of the next 3 years by companies offering a 9% upfront increase, but only if a new agreement is ratified by December 1st. Additional compensation. It says in the company's final proposal, the companies increased the maximum amount of additional compensation to match the amount of the union's request for a contingent compensation buyout up to $950. Well, the companies have held to their position that there will be no contingent compensation. So what they're saying is, well, we'll get into that. The companies have proposed a schedule of additional compensation that largely matches SAG-AFTRA's last demand, including the total aggregated figure and the number of sessions necessary to earn that amount. This too must be ratified by December 1st to become effective. Pension and health contributions. The companies agreed to the union's request for a 0.5% increase and have agreed in principle regarding which of the benefit plans the money should be directed to. Vocal stress issues. After the union rejected the company's proposals concerning modifying voiceover sessions to mitigate any risk of vocal stress, the parties agreed on forming a joint cooperative committee to study vocal stress issues. Stunt coordination, which is not something that SAG-AFTRA seems to even really give a shit about. At least in this.
Well, yeah, I think this is their boilerplate, not drilled down. I have heard about stunts.
The expired interactive media agreement between companies and SAG-AFTRA already provides for a stunt coordinator to be on site for sessions that include stunts. While SAG-AFTRA made no new proposals in this area, it did seek further clarification about the use of stunt coordinators, and both sides agreed to continue to those discussions through the cooperative committee during the term of the new agreement. And then transparency. It says the union proposal requested additional upfront information about when booking performers in video games to know more information, game title, name, new role, or reprise of a previous role. The companies enhanced their proposal to agree to provide the code name of the project and whether the performer will be asked to reprise a previous role. While SAG-AFTRA contends that the video game industry is the only industry not to require an employer to reveal the name of the projects on which a performer is working, SAG-AFTRA has no such requirement in television, theatrical motion pictures, or animation agreements. So that's the other side. And what's happened since then is basically SAG-AFTRA has gone on strike and has picketed EA in LA, EA's LA office. And that's basically where we stand. So that's all the information.
Thank you very much, Colin.
I know that was very long-winded, but I do want to present both sides.
No, very important. So, I mean, what are the immediate takeaways from this? So they are, to boil this down into like English that people can really understand.
Yeah, where are they apart right now?
This sounds like they're trying to get royalties for games after the release, so that
from the biggest companies.
From the biggest companies, so that they get paid for doing the job, but then also get paid based on the...
You hit 2 million sales of Call of Duty, suddenly that voice actor gets more.
Exactly.
4 million sales more.
They're also trying to get better work environments, so that they're talking about the pain or whatever, I don't forget the words they're using, but the
vocal stress.
The stress. Yeah, the vocal stress is just like, okay, so better work environments for that stuff. And yeah, so all that stuff sounds reasonable to request. I think the important thing is that I think that it's good that they're trying and fighting for this stuff, because you should stand up for whatever it is that you're doing and try to get the most out of it. Mm-hmm. Whether or not it's going to pass and needs to pass, I think that's the real discussion there.
I mean, that's what's fascinating about it. I've talked to a lot of voice actors about this off the record, or, not in like an interview sense, obviously. And what's always interesting is the ones who are all for it, that they feel this is the way of the future, and then the ones who aren't. The ones who are very much like... What's interesting when you talk to people about this, or at least the conversations I've had with multiple voice actors, is that at some point we get down to the developer. And the people who are pro-striking right now, what I hear a lot is, we're doing this so that that the developers could follow suit. And the people who are making the game for 2 years could also see say you get a bonus for hitting 2 million, for 4 million, for basically seeing their project be successful trickle back to them, right? There's the argument for the pro strike people there. The people who are against the strike are saying, I don't see why I should be compensated like this if they're not, if the developer isn't compensated the exact same way. And that's where there's this interesting thing where in the middle are the developers to some extent, but no side has it. They're both fighting for them in different ways, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's why the whole thing's kind of cumbersome and weird.
Exactly. And that's what it goes back to what I was saying of like, I think that it's important that they're fighting for it. Even that's not to say that they're more valid and deserve it more than the developers.
100%.
The developers should be fighting for it as well. When you look over on the film and TV side of it thing, there is rules. There's a setup for how this all works. There's been, an industry that has the unions and everything have grown over the years to now it's like, this is how it is. This is the way that these things go. We saw it with the writer's strike years ago, that how that fundamentally affected TV and made TV worse.
Terrible season heroes.
Yeah, exactly. Like it really had a true effect on the industry because there was a talent pool that required a certain amount of compensation and this and that, and they weren't getting it. And when they didn't have that, there was a vacuum of nothing. The question here is like, all right, if these people were to strike and not do it, is there still room for other people? Like, does this just allow others to move up?
Yeah. Well, I think that's one of the things that the video game publishers are relying on, that there are, right? The fact that there are, that's one of the arguments you see when I follow a lot of voice actors and they're tweeting things out and stuff, and they're referencing other tweets or statements where they feel like voice actors are replaceable, right? And I think it's no coincidence that this is coming up from SAG-AFTRA as we see voice actors now rising to a celebrity status, where you see like Ashley Johnson is Ellie, right? Troy Baker is all these different characters. You can go down this list of people that are these characters, are these names that are on an Up at Noon, that are going to a Comic-Con. Like, they are out in front of this in a way that they never were before. Remember how weird I remember, the first time we brought Rob Paulson threw Up at Noon, and he kept saying, "You guys are treating me like a celebrity." And it's like, well, it's because you are. You're fucking Yakko. You kidding me right now? Like, you are this name amongst names, and through podcasts and through Twitter and through shows on IGN or wherever, people are seeing that, and people are getting followings.
Yeah, I mean, so when you speak about the film or TV side of the whole thing and the royalties and all that, there's above the line and below the line in production, where I don't remember the exact fallout of all of it, but I mean, like, there's actors, there's directors, there's these people that are considered above the line, and below the line is the production stuff. It's the
key grip or whatever.
The director of photography, like these people that are making the thing happen. Like, without them, it really does not happen, but they don't get the same type of credit. You don't see title this guy film for the director of photography.
Sure.
You know what I mean? You get it for the director. I think that directors, sometimes producers, and actors are the ones that get the credit. They're the ones that get the royalties. They're the ones that kind of grow in that way. When it comes to video games, it's like, well, what's the difference and what are those roles? And that's not to say that any of the people below the line don't deserve the thing, but until they fight for it and get it, they're not going to have it because the money needs to go somewhere, and the profits, all these people are making this thing to make money, right? Yeah. And if all the money is then being made and going right back to the people making it, you're not making money. There's somebody that's higher up that's expecting a split and a huge revenue stream coming in, that it's not all just the thing to make sure people have jobs. You know what I mean? But that's what the unions are for. And that's why I think that this type of thing is very important. But there needs to be some type of distinguishing factor between where is the line drawn?
Where is the line?
Smart. What roles need to be deserve to get royalty style revenue for if the game does better? Call of Duty does super well. What does that mean? And I think that as we grow, like, there's this thing of voice actors and what you're talking about them being celebrities and stuff. Years ago, if you were to talk about who are the people, the names known in video games, there's Cliff Bleszinski and Shigeru Miyamoto and Kojima. And that's pretty much it back then, right? A couple other ones. Yeah,
of course.
Outliers, but whatever. Yeah. Then as the years went on, then you start thinking about Dan Hsu, Jeff Gerstmann, Greg Miller, Colin Moriarty, right? Like, those names start getting into the fold too. I think the step after that became Troy Baker, Nolan North, where these are now people that have followings based on who they are and what they do in the industry. Yeah. And then there's the thing of people look at them as not just voice actors, but as actors. And they really stress that we're actors. And now in video games, they're not just voice actors. They're not just going in and doing a 4-hour whatever session, then another 4-hour session, then another 4-hour session, and then they're done. These are people, you did the panel for Call of Duty Infinite Warfare at San Diego Comic-Con with the entire voice cast of the game, and they're talking about how they spent a year working together in the motion suits, doing scenes together. It's like making a movie.
And I think that's the big thing of one of the interesting things we haven't touched on is the fact that, we're mentioning Rob Paulson, we're mentioning Troy Baker, we're mentioning all these actors who do video games, but also are on syndicated cartoons. They understand how that works, how if they can get a show on TV and they can be a voice there, the money they are making versus what they're making in a video game. And like, wait a second, why am I being treated so much better on this side of the entertainment industry than I am here? And that's part of the balancing act too, I think you're seeing, where people are like hip to the game of what it's like to be, well, if I'm in a show and it gets syndicated and it's everywhere, I get, checks the rest of my life. Granted, maybe not for thousands of millions of dollars or whatever, but it's out there. You're getting money. Whereas here, it's just a one-time payment.
And that's the thing, is like with video games, it's like, I don't know how it all shakes down. I'm not in the weeds with that, but it's like, all right, Uncharted sells X amount. What does that mean for Neil Druckmann?
Yeah.
Right? Like if he writes, directs this and that, like how does that affect him versus, random level designer or this or that? And it's like, I feel like there's an obvious disparity there. Like, yeah, he should get more, but it's like, what is the difference there? What about Nolan North in that equation, right? Like why does he deserve equal, less, more, whatever? Like, I don't know, but I feel like that's where all the unions come in and all that stuff. And the fact that there is a precedent in TV and in movies and stuff, that it is kind of their point about they want to do this so that the other people can then be able to see how it works. There's something to that, but I also think that it's a little disingenuous, just in the sense that like that's not how things work. Like I feel like if that was the real goal, I feel like it'd be important to focus on unionizing them as well.
Sure.
And doing it as a united front to kind of make video games more like TV and movies, if that's the goal. If that's what they're trying to do, I think it needs to be overall, because that's what TV and movies are. There are rules. There are rules that are designed a certain way, and for better or worse, they've existed for decades.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I see, like I tweeted out about it, talk to people about it. I see both sides of the argument. What voice actors do is incredibly hard and I think important. Part of me feels like it's as important or more important than they say, and part of me feels like it's not as important as some voice actors make it out to be. And I say that with all due respect, because I have plenty of voice actors that are friends of mine. I also have plenty of developers that are friends of mine. And so I see the particular argument where it comes, I don't remember who it was, some pretty prolific Canadian developer. I remember last year tweeting out, when this was kind of being talked about for the first time, I guess when negotiations began, saying something like the gaming industry is wildly broken if people that work on the game for literally weeks are getting these back-end payments when we work on the game for years. And get nothing.
From voice actors, not just developers.
Yeah, and I think that that's a completely fair thing. And the example I use to that point, where I think I fall more on the side of like how this is a little ridiculous, is a sports union like the NFLPA, right? The kicker and the backup lineman and the backup center are in the same union that the star quarterback's in. They all benefit. That entire unit benefits from the union gains, whether it's the minimum salary, whether it's arbitration, all those kinds of things. The voice actors are on the periphery of the game development thing, and they'll get all of the financial back-end gains, even though this entire team of people actually allowed this to happen, allowed this game to be created. And there's an interesting argument to be made there, that to what you were saying, which is that like the entire unit needs to be unified and unionized for this to work. And I don't think it's going to, because I think people vastly overestimate the economics of video games and how this is going to crumble if the gains are too big. If suddenly everyone involved in the game is getting unionized and everyone involved in the game is now getting paid on the back end and getting paid residuals, not for nothing, TV and movies really expensive to make, in part because of unions, right? Like the rules with acting and the rules with the Teamsters putting up all the sets and all this, it's outrageous.
I mean, absolutely. And just for us knowing that personally, kind of from the animated series, we've had multiple issues where we can't work with people because their union fees make it just simply like, even though they want to help us out, we can't work with them because it's just prohibitively expensive.
Yeah, and
to protect them. But I mean, that just means we're not going to work with them.
But it's our prerogative not to use those businesses.
We can't do that. Yeah.
Exactly. And so sometimes when a strike happens, the product suffers. So in 1982 and 1986 or 1987, the NFL had a strike, and scabs played, right? And especially in 86, and they were terrible. It was terrible, like notoriously bad. Some people crossed the picket lines, but like some players did. But the product was so bad, the NFL basically was like we need to figure this out.
There's a movie documentary called The Replacements about this, starring Keanu Reeves.
But on that note, and I really feel this way, and I hate to say it, if those voice actors never came back, that 25% of games in which they're involved in never came back, I'm not so sure that games would suffer. Like maybe in terms of and I'm not saying that as a slight against their talent. I know these people. These people are my friends. I'm just speaking from a personal, like from the heart, saying like it's not like the NFL strike where like everyone was unionized the same way. Mm-hmm. So you didn't have your special teams wasn't unionized, but your defense was you know what I mean? Like
I know what you mean.
Everyone was gone. And that's not the case here. The developers are still making the games, and there are 75% of the games being made in which these people have nothing to do with at all. So my whole point is that I do not think that SAG-AFTRA has the leverage necessary in traditional union strikes to gain labor leverage over their employers. I don't think they do. And even with that said, it seems like, and you can take it with a grain of salt, but I don't know why the businesses will lie. In fact, it would be illegal for them, I think, to do that. During the course of union negotiations, they basically said, like, we did meet all of these things. Like, they wanted 3% a year over 3 years. We just gave them 9% off the top. Like, mm-hmm. we did say, like, we would have this, and this. And I was reading things where they were saying, like, part of the problem is that the union wants to call the pay, like, the new payments one thing, and the publishers want to call it another thing because they're leaving the door open for their residual payments that they want. So basically, they just come back to the table later. And I think the way I interpret that is that the businesses are saying basically like we need to solve this now.
Yeah,
because we're not doing this again. So I'm not belittling the talent of the voice actors. I wouldn't be able to do that in a fucking million years. You know,
except Shocker.
I could do Shocker, and I could play myself in the animated series. But the thing is that I just don't think they have the leverage, and I don't think that because the entire team's not involved. Per my NFLPA example, it just doesn't really affect the traction of the game's development. There are I am positive, and unlike with the NFLPA, in which the entire pool of talented football players was involved in that, there are definitely talented video game voice actors that are not in SAG-AFTRA, and that's going to cause a problem, and this might be an opening for them. So it's dangerous to play to go to the brink with this because I don't know if the voice actors win.
To piggyback off what you're saying, right? The quality of a football game hinges completely on what's happening there and how this is working out, right? Every game depends on that talent. Not every video game depends on voice actor talent, right? Yeah, I think Uncharted would be not nearly as good without those actors killing the roles and doing what they're doing, right? But let's for argument's sake, Nolan North is the best voice actor of all time, right? And he makes Nathan Drake, and he makes Uncharted something really special, right? Nolan North couldn't save Dark Void. Dark Void is a bad game. It is not. Nolan's in this. That's cool, and it sounds a little bit like Nathan Drake, but he didn't make that, right? The writing was terrible. The gameplay was bad. It wasn't fun to play through. And in the same vein, right now, I love Matt Mercer, right? He played Critical Role with us, right? He's in Titanfall 2. Sounds fine. He's good.
He's in Persona 5.
Yeah, he was in Dancing All Night too. He's great, right? He's Matt Mercer. He's great. But like Titanfall 2, his character isn't like jumping off the screen at me that I'm playing as in first person in the story, right? Like I hear him talk a little bit and I'm like, oh, that's fun. That's but it's not like, man, this is making it. It could have been any voice actor I feel there, whether they're SAG or not, and it would have been the same thing. Like, oh, this guy's fine. This is fun. Yeah. Whatever.
I mean, I agree with you guys that strikes work when it's going to fundamentally cripple whatever that they're trying to do.
That's the whole idea.
Exactly, and we were talking about before, like when BART, which is our like travel system in the Bay Area,
rapid transit,
when they straight up just were like, fuck this, we're not doing this. It totally fucked everything up. People couldn't get to work. If you lived in the East Bay, how are you going to? If you don't have a car, there's like. You need to find someone to carpool with or else you're screwed and you can't get to work. That fucks things up, then things actually happen.
Yeah.
Having said that, I don't think that they were in a position because there is so many people that want these jobs and all this. I do think that's very important what they're doing. I don't think that the strike's necessarily a failure if it doesn't get everything that they want. I think that the conversations happening are what's really important. I think that having people even think about the developers deserving residuals or whatever is important. And the fact that the industry is moving in a way where these are things that are happening and there are strikes that are occurring and it's happening outside of EA, which forces EA to at least acknowledge it. And the fact that they are talking about, like, all right, we're going to give you the 9% up front. Like, there are steps being made. And I think that's the takeaway that's important for all of this.
Yeah, I think that, I have a massive problem with public unions that are unionized outside of the realm of putting your life in danger. So I think police and cops have every right to have a union because they're actually putting their life on the line. But the guy sitting at the IRS that's unionized, I think that's fucking absurd. Anything that has to do with taxpayer money, I think, shouldn't be unionized because it's really kind of predatory on the taxpayer. That's one segment of unionization. Then there's this whole swath of private unionization. And this is what we're talking about now. And I have no problem with any private union existing because the market will either dictate that they need them or not. And that's what we were talking about with the animation union, where we just don't want to work with them, so we don't. Now, we're not going to get certain talent, but we have plenty of talent that's not unionized that we are working with. So looking at it through that lens, there's often everything has a blowback and unintended consequences always. Note that the Japanese car companies, when the economy crashed, didn't need a bailout. The American car companies that were unionized needed a bailout, right? The UAW was partially responsible, even though they were being paid less than the Japanese car companies making cars in Georgia or Tennessee. The Chrysler and Ford didn't take it, but Chrysler and GM needed bailout money because they weren't healthy. In part, not totally, because their cars also sucked. They're way better now, but in part because the unionization made things really complicated for them to be able to pay their employees a reasonable wage. Meanwhile, it showed in more southern states with Japanese car manufacturing that those unions might not necessarily have been necessary, and so there was blowback, right? There was unintended consequences to the unionization, even though the unionization is done to make the working and middle class vibrant, blue collar workers especially vibrant and able to pay for their house and pay for their families. The blowback on this, if it goes to where you're talking, is going to be fewer games, less risk-averse games, more sequels, and basically exactly what you see now. Shooter X, Shooter Y, sports games A, B, and C, maybe a bold new open world role-playing game that they'll shove down your throat, big open world game like Grand Theft Auto or something like that, and then very little in the middle and very little at the bottom. Why? Because if they have to unionize the entire the entire development of the game from creative director all the way down to the QA testers and everyone in between, which would mean that would get the entire team on board and cripple a game if they went on strike, then they're just gonna be risk averse. That's it. I mean, that's it. Like I'm not saying that Activision can't afford to pay residuals to voice actors and maybe everyone that makes the Call of Duty game, and there are hundreds of people that work on every Call of Duty game across multiple studios, Raven, Sledgehammer, IW, Treyarch. They can probably afford it. That's one example, But if you go down to Titanfall, which Titanfall 2 will sell modestly. Titanfall 2 will probably sell, a few million copies. Now, everyone at Respawn is going to get a residual check. And then suddenly EA looks at it and be like, we're not making another Titanfall game. We could have afforded to make a Titanfall 3 for those few million people that like it, but we're not going to do that anymore because our profits are now minimal because we had to give all of this back-end support to all these people. So the point I'm trying to make is, if they get to where you're talking about, it could have a blowback. It could have unintended consequences on the games we get at the AAA level. And so you have to be very careful about what you wish for with this kind of shit. To me, I think it's not necessarily unreasonable for voice actors to ask for this, and therefore not unreasonable for the developers to ask for it as well. But you are going to have some sort of gradual creep in terms of budget meeting, money's made, and it's not going to be very good for the publisher. And they're not in this for any other reason than to make money. And if they're not, and these companies are so big that it's not good enough. Say Titanfall 2 costs $100 million, and EA looks at their bank and we made $10 million. Be like, we're not doing that again. We just spent all of that time, all of that effort, all of that money, years of time for $10 million in profit? I don't think so.
And that's where the line
and so you got to be very careful.
Comes into, right? Yeah. The line comes in where, all right, cool, it's going to be the director and the writer and whatever, the producers that get this and nobody else. Everybody else is paid that. Then it's like, well, everybody's now jockeying, trying to get out of those positions. Talent is hemorrhaging out of studios which it already does to an extent, but you're going to lose a team quicker because, all right, cool, I was an associate producer, which meant I was below the line in this game, but I see a chance to go to EA or Activision or whoever, jump up there and get it.
Like, I know enough people that have worked in TV and movies and all those kinds of things. I think we all do. To hear the horror stories of the way productions are run and how people have to work around these, like with Golden Time and all that kind of stuff or whatever they call it and all this, where like the unions are so onerous on the way movies and television shows are made that like it's incredibly fucking daunting to deal with all these things. And my suspicion is that you can't expect the trickle down to go all the way to the consumer, although maybe it would. But if a movie's cheaper to make, then there's a lower threshold for the movie to make its money back. Then maybe cooler movies are made or more bold movies are made, and then maybe tickets might even become cheaper and things might become more competitive. Now, I don't know if it would trickle all the way down in that respect. Some people would dispute that. I would even dispute that. But it just opens your mind to the repercussions of having it and the repercussions of not having it. And there's two very different scenarios in which, if a TV show is 25% cheaper to make, then that would mean 25, and the same monies were being made, then 25% more profits being made, then they'd be like, well, let's fucking invest in a bunch of new shit, But if they're so that's what I fear is a chilling effect on games based on this, and I don't think we're gonna have to worry about that. There's no way the developers are gonna unionize. I don't think that's possibly gonna happen. It's too complicated to make that happen. There are hundreds of studios in the world, and if you include indies and just people working out of their houses, thousands. I mean, how do you unionize those people like across country lines? And I mean, it's like. And then it's like, if you have American talent, you're in this union, and you just get Canadian, and then you just send your game to Canada. You just send your game to Eastern Europe. You're just like, if I was a publisher, if I was EA, right? And they were like, and now American developers are unionized. I'm like, we're shutting all of our American studios down, and we're making all of our games in Europe. That's that, So you got to be careful with pushing the ball to. You might not want to see it roll down the hill. That's all I'm saying.
Ladies and gentlemen, as always, this topic's brought to you by you. You can go to kindafunny.com/gamescast topic. Leave your questions. We'll get to them one day, just like our boy Be Somebody's Blues.
Be Somebody's Blues.
So this is a extremely long passage, if you will. And I'm going to read it because I think that there's something interesting here, and I wanted to specifically get to this. I wouldn't even say it's a question because it's not a question. I just wanted to read it because he starts off with, "Hey, I'm a new listener."
Sup?
And I was like, I want to show you some love here.
We love you, Be Somebody's Blues.
Be Somebody's Blues. Hey guys, I'm a new listener and I just wanted to say how great you guys are. Binge listening to past shows is the only thing that gets me through my workday. I'm writing because I find myself in a bit of a predicament. A couple days ago, I went in to have surgery done on my wrist to remove a cyst that seems to constantly grow between my wrist joints, causing me some pain. This occurrence is quite troublesome as I now have to wear a caster on my dominant hand. Can't lift anything heavier than a gallon of milk, and most importantly, I can't play video games. However, the problem seems to stretch farther than just a couple weeks of out of commission. Now, my mother and I have been in constant arguments about what is causing the problem in my wrist. Masturbation. While we both agree it's from excessive video gaming, we both have different opinions when it comes to solving the problem. While on the way back from the hospital, my mother was telling me all the things the doctor had told her about the surgery and how everything went. And then she jokingly said that the doctor told her to take my PS4 out of the room because constant video gaming was causing the cyst to grow. A fact not actually noted by my doctor, by the way. And this is when I realized something. My mother views video games as some childish, meaningless habit, or addiction as she likes to call it now, that has no purpose other than mindless entertainment. Of course, I'm embellishing. My mother didn't actually say those things. I therefore tried to persuade her to see that video games were more than that and had more meaning to me, but that they're my passion and an art form that needs due respect. Being a cinema studies major with the hopes of pursuing screenwriting in my future, I understand the meaning of storytelling on all platforms, but how do you describe the importance and meaning of video games to someone, or even farther, a society that views video games and gamers as a wasted opportunity growing less important staring at a TV screen? As the same can be said about binge watchers and those seamlessly connected to their smartphones. Society constantly views gamers and the nerd society as a whole from a perspective of the 40-year-old man wasting his life away in his mother's basement in the same Cheeto-stained sweatpants he's been wearing for the past 15 years. To this extent, I'm not exactly sure what I'm trying to get at. I'm sure there's some deeper conversation hiding away in here somewhere. All this just sprung to mind during driving back from the hospital as the anesthesia was wearing off, and I was trying to convince my mother that no matter how much pain I'm in, no matter how many times the little bastard grows back, I will play video games until my wrist falls off. Sorry for the long-ass rant. Hopefully you can make some meaning out of it. Sincerely, One-Handed Gamer. Thought it was interesting.
No, it is. I mean,
what are video games? What do they mean to us?
Well, it's what we always talk, or what I always talk about, right? I always use the thing. I usually talk about it with violence in video games, right? And like the fact of the matter is, we're aging. No offense to your mom, everybody out of this population. Where eventually you're going to get to this tipping point where people have grown up with games, and that's what we always talk about with like the term gamer, right? Like it's such a weird thing. There aren't movie watchers, there aren't television watchers, I'm a binge watcher. That's not how you describe yourself.
Yeah.
Binge watching and movies and all that is just part of everybody's life, right? And it's more strange when you meet somebody who's like, oh, I don't have a TV. I don't go to the movies. I don't do anything. What, really? Like, and it's one of that's what has happened with gaming, where the people who get bent out of shape when there's somebody in Congress and he's like, oh my God, we need to ban video games. We need to do all this different stuff. Video games are too violent, right? He's saying that because somebody told him in GTA you get to kill a hooker and take the money back after she services you. And for him, he's thinking of the last time he saw a video game was when his daughter was 5 and she was playing NES and she was playing Mario. And then the daughter found another interest and never played video games again. And that's where his entertainment, his knowledge of video games ended. And so when he hears you're killing a hooker, you're taking the money back, he's thinking of a 7-year-old playing that on a TV screen. Not the 32-year-old man who's coming home from his accounting job and wanting to get a form of entertainment out, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing is where I think our generation we're obviously advancing the ball down the field in terms of like, okay, this is an art and this is how we feel about it, and we crave great performances, and games can make us cry and they can make us laugh and they can do all these different things. I think that's what's going to happen, where eventually this fades away. We get this question all the time of like, my mom isn't a gamer or my girlfriend isn't a gamer. What's the one game I can show them to change the opinion? There is no one game, of course. You know your mom, you know your girlfriend, you know whoever you're talking to, and obviously this could be boyfriend, father as well. I'm not trying to put any gender thing on it. You know what would speak to them on that level to make them understand or make them see, whether it is playing Uncharted and they're like, oh, it's just like a movie, or whether it is making them experience PSVR or VR in general. You know what I mean? Like there's so many different things, but you also can't lead the horse to water and make it drink. Like they have to find it on their own or they never will, and that's totally fine as well.
Yeah. I mean, your story kind of really inspires me in a lot of ways, just because like just reading it reminded me something I already knew, but it reminded me just how important games are to me and like how important game culture is to me. And it's not even so much just about playing it, but it's about living it. And it's about thinking back on all the memories of my life. And in no small way, I am who I am because of video games.
100%.
Like my career, my job, all that, obviously. But when I stop and think back on my life and I think back about the friendships that I made and the relationships that I have, so many of them are birthed in video games in some way, whether it's the hours of co-op we played together or just waiting in line for the new Halo game to come out in front of a store, or just talking to your friends about what could Mario 5 look like, you know what I mean? Like just making things up in your head. It's just like, it's a form of creative expression that goes so far beyond just experiencing it and interacting with it as it's happening. But it is kind of all encompassing, and it is a lifestyle, you know, and in the same way I think movies are too, and TV has been forever. But yeah, I mean, you know, piggybacking off your point, like this is the wave of the future, and it's not so much even the future anymore. It's the now. This is happening. This is how things are. And I think that it won't be long till video games are just something people just do.
Accept, yeah.
You know, and
it's funny because, I hadn't heard, and I know it's still out there, of course, but like in our day-to-day life and even talking to our fans and the best friends, right, I haven't heard the whole like Mother's Basement Cheetos thing in so long, other than when I make the joke about it, Dr. Pepper or something. But like, you know, what we're talking about, you know, I've talked about to you off camera about it, of the fact, you know, I went to Missouri, right? And I'm there with my friend who's an actuary who's about to have his first kid with his wife. And then one of my, you know, best friends in the world who's a mother of 3, right? And both of them wanted to talk about the Nintendo Switch. They just heard about this. They'd read about it in the paper. They'd seen like something on the news. And like, that's where it's at, is that people who aren't in games, aren't connected to gaming, but grew up with gaming and have taken time off and don't have PlayStation 4s and don't have an Xbox Live account and don't, you know, have that. I have no fucking idea what VR is. They hear about something that's interesting in games. They want to know about it because they're interested in getting it.
Well, I mean, I think, you know, so mobile gaming gets so much shit. But I think that something that should be said about it is that so many people that are not gamers, would never say they're gamers, games have not affected their lives at all, have been addicted to Candy Crush. They've been addicted to Bejeweled or Jetpack Joyride or whatever it is. And they play those things. They wouldn't call them video games, but they are video games. And I think that is what people are just going to start growing up with. Whether you're playing on your PlayStation 4 or the Nintendo Switch or on your phone, people are playing games, and whether or not they know that they're games, we are now growing up in a place where my girlfriend that's not into video games, handing her a controller and saying play is a lot easier now than it would have been 7 years ago, because inherently she's played games on her phone. She can wrap her head around how games work, you know, like the structure of all that stuff and using controls, even if it's touch or not. I think the touch thing across DS and across just video games in general now, touch is just a thing in a way that we interface with tech. People grow up using iPhones. So the crossover to video games is just it's way more natural than it used to be. Before you had to try to play games. Now you just play games.
And I mean, in terms of what you're talking about, and kudos is something that maybe doesn't speak to us, but spoke to so many. The Wii, right? I'll never, ever, ever forget when my mom came over and played the Wii at Thanksgiving and that said she wanted a Wii, and I was like, "What? Really?" Okay. And I stood in line and got her one for Christmas, and then like 9 months later, when she was like, "Oh yeah, and I bought a DS. I'm playing a horse game." And I'm like, "What? Who the hell are you? You've never been." Both parents would play video games with me and not know what was going on and be done with it, right? But here they are playing the contemporary systems I am, and granted, completely different experiences. But it was the one that was then into nursing homes, and it was the one where my mom and her husband had a Wii, and they played it at a barbecue here and there, and it was this party thing for them, and it did break down that wall to an extent of what video games are and introduce people to this thing that is different.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like I used to make this argument that, even when, not too long ago, a few years ago, where games are art, it's important for people to recognize that video games are art and they're important. And then I kind of came to the realization that, like, I don't really care. I played games almost every day of my life, virtually every day of my life for pretty much 30 years. And they're a part of the fabric of who I am. And certainly, as you said, are part of why I am the way I am and who I am. And I think we waste a lot of time and a lot of energy making people believe, and I just don't care anymore if they believe or not. It's obvious that they are, like, it takes a ridiculously stupid person to sit down, watch you play Uncharted for an hour and not understand what video games are. That you have to be intentionally obtuse or just absolutely insane to not understand that a video game is special if you show them something like Uncharted 4. But whether or not that person gets Uncharted 4 or not, it gets that, like, video games are not just a waste of time per se. And by the way, they are a massive waste of time. There's nothing wrong with that. I've said that before. Almost everything we do is a waste of time. I watch football for 12 hours every Sunday. It's a fucking massive waste of time, but I like it. And that's what's most important. So I feel like, we often talk about, like, movies being made or games being made into movies, or with Uncharted and The Last of Us, and how that, like, I think a lot of the reason that people want those to be good is to say, like, look, video games can do something worthwhile like a movie can do. And to me, I'm like, I don't care. I don't even want these things to be movies. It's not important that we get, with all due respect, his mom's acceptance of video games. It doesn't matter. Like, to Greg's point, like, these people are going to be gone one day. Like, the people like us that grew up with a PlayStation in our house, or a Dreamcast, or a GameCube, or whatever it is, that understand games, they will grow up, and we will get to the point where you aren't a gamer, but that's just something that you probably just do passively, whether you're doing it on a phone, or whether you're doing it on a tablet, or whether you're doing it on a television. I think that the value of something like Wii or DS or these mainstream devices are dubious at best, because they were ephemeral, they were gone like that. And now we're back to a baseline again of hardcore gamers, which is a different kind of person than a person that plays a game on the phone. And I don't think that one's better than the other, but it is worth saying that the games we're necessarily talking about are not games that you play on your phone. And so I just feel like people have to kind of keep that in mind. It's not, who cares? Like that's the big thing. Like, and that's really the way I feel, where I'm like, I just don't care anymore. I don't. I'm 32 years old. I love video games. I'll play them for the rest of my life. They're a part of the fabric of who I am, what I do, how I grew up, how I live as an adult, the way I make my money. And it's not important to me what other people think about it. And if they think it's a waste of time in a bad way, if they think that they're stupid, if they think they're childish, well, fuck them. I don't care. Like,
no,
it
doesn't
matter.
It's a young man's game in terms of that, right? Where it was, the counter example to this, right, is the fact that I was showing Jen around Mizzou the other day, and we came to Speaker Circle. And Speaker Circle at the University of Missouri is this place where you can go and say whatever you want. And, like, people go there and give speeches, and people gather. And, like, in my day, and everybody's day, even when I was not going to school there was, like, Brother Jed, who would come through and sit there and preach the gospel, but he was one of those guys who would tell you why you're going to hell, and yell at the girls walking by for having premarital sex or wearing their shorts, or yell at the guys. And, like, when you're a student and that's happening, man, that he gets a crowd because people sit there and want to argue with him and try to make their point and tell him he's wrong and all these different things. And then, like, by senior year, you just blow by. You don't fucking care what Brother Jed's saying. It doesn't matter. You're not going to change his mind. What does it matter? And it's the same thing here when Roger Ebert originally brought up his whole thing of, like, games aren't art, blah, blah, and, like, people wanted to go fight him on Twitter and do all these different things. Well, and it's like, granted, he died too, but then proving my point. But the more and more he says it, like, why the fuck? Why would you engage?
Yikes!
It's literally what we're talking about. We're aging out the people that don't care. That, like, why waste your time?
Yeah, it's just like I've talked about in the past how, when my parents, especially my dad, finally was like, when I was an adult, being like, I looked at this as a dubious sort of thing that you do, and it's very impressive that you made this into a career. And his son, of course, is an animator, so we both do cool things for a living and stuff. And it validated me in a way, but that was a very personal thing. Like when I look at it in terms of, because I argued that not necessarily that you should take games seriously, but that I'm going to do something with them and I will prove you wrong, and so I did. But I just don't care what other people think about it. It goes back to there seems to be, especially in gaming, but it happens in sports, it happens in music, it happens in really anything with fandom where everyone, people try to hurt you by saying that something you like sucks, right? People tweet me all the time, the Jets suck. I'm like, you're really shocking. I didn't know that. I'm going to lose a lot of sleep over the fact that the Jets suck. I didn't know. I watched every Jets game for years and years and years, but I had no idea they were bad. Or when someone's like, 311 sucks or whatever, I'm like, oh, I'm going to lose a lot of sleep. You don't like a band that I like. Oh no. Who gives a fuck? It's the same thing with video games. It's just like, enjoy what you enjoy. If you enjoy them, then shout them from the rooftops. People will understand or they don't, and it doesn't matter. Move on with your life. Enjoy your shit, and people will come around or they don't. Also understand that there's a diversification of opinions, and your opinion's not necessarily right. Video games might be totally ridiculous and useless and all these kinds of things, but they're not to me. So that's all that really matters at the end of the day.
Amen. Next question comes from Witcher Champ. Hey guys, Rockstar did an incredible job on giving a first-person experience to Grand Theft Auto on the PlayStation 4, and it's kind of surprising the Resident Evil 7 will be in first person as well. My question is this: what games would you like to be remade or have a sequel with a different perspective? I'm not just talking about going from third to first person or vice versa. Side-scroller, isometric, and top-down can also be considered. I'd be interested in having a Metroidvania 2D style side-scrolling Uncharted. Keep up the good work. You're a fan from South Africa, Witcher Champ.
Let's be clear that almost anything in Metroidvania style would be better than the way that it is right now, because that's the best way to play a game. I said before, third-person open-world Mega Man game I think would be cool. The idea of spinning things on its head sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. I always go back to Mega Man Legends or Mega Man 64, which people love for some reason, and I'm like, why? Just because sometimes people want to change. But it also goes back to what we talked about with so-called Final Fantasy disease and all these kinds of things where we have expectations of what games should be. While I'd like to see games kind of molded or morphed into different things, like Resident Evil 7 being in first person is strange, but that makes sense, actually. Mm-hmm. Like when we saw it and heard about it, I didn't even realize that it was in first person. That's how much sense it made, where I'm like, I was reading about it and that just totally glossed over that and the footage of the screens, whatever it was, where I'm like, I probably could have literally played Resident Evil 7 having played every other Resident Evil game in the core series except for 6 and not even realized that it was any different, because that's just where we're going. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where I stand. I'd like to see what the developers want to do with certain things. I think a side-scrolling Uncharted would be awesome. Yeah. Be careful what you ask for, though. We had side-scrolling Assassin's Creed games, and if Assassin's Creed wasn't bad enough, you really should play those games. Which I lasted all of 5 minutes before I'm like, how can you make a side-scroller feel like this? Threw it out.
For me, I think when they put out the Ghostbusters game, right? The Ghostbusters, the video game on PS3, Xbox 360, that was what I'd always envisioned a Ghostbusters game to be, right? Third person, here we go. I'm playing as this character. That's great. And then I've heard nothing but good things about the Ghostbusters VR arcade game that's out in New York and a couple different places like that, where I would have never said, yeah, I want a first-person Ghostbusters game, because I think that looked stupid with the Neutrona wand bouncing back and forth. But being in a VR experience, feeling like I'm a Ghostbuster sounds awesome. And from what I've seen on Reddit, because God knows I wouldn't fucking buy it, but the Ghostbusters movie, the 2016 version, comes with an insert that promotes that the Ghostbusters VR thing is coming to PlayStation VR.
Oh, really?
Which would be totally fucking dope to see. Yeah,
that's really cool. This isn't so much answering your questions as much as providing an example of something that did this and it worked with Tomb Raider. I forget the name of it, but Gate of Light, Guardian of Light.
Yeah.
Guardian of Light. I feel like that was more of an isometric thing, and I feel like it really kind of went to the heart of what Tomb Raider meant to you playing it growing up.
Sure.
Like Tomb Raider, I honestly feel doesn't hold up when you go back and play Tomb Raider 1 through 3 nowadays, even though back then it was so amazing. But this game kind of made it feel like I remember Tomb Raider feeling. And I feel like Lara Croft Go also did that. So with Hitman Go, that was great, but it really was kind of very different than the Hitman games. 100%. But with Lara Croft Go, it's like it felt like what Tomb Raider would feel like if Tomb Raider kept happening, way simpler, way dumbed down, but the idea of just the puzzle solving and all that, it felt very true to what Tomb Raider is. And I think the perspective change and gameplay change as well really kind of helps with that. So Next question. General Moses. Do publishers ruin games? Examples. EA and Battlefront. Battlefield 4. Activision with Call of Duty. Tony Hawk and Destiny.
Publishers fund the games. There would be none of those games without the publisher's money. So no, I can't agree with you there. Do they bite off more than they can chew? Do they ask for too much?
Overzealous?
Are they a little crazy? Yeah.
Shoving it down your throat sometimes?
But the anti-publisher shit is outrageous. You know, like without, you can hate Electronic Arts all you want, but you wouldn't have gotten fucking any of the games from Visceral, any of the games from like really any of their studios, Redwood, whatever. You know, like.
I mean, this all goes back to
I don't understand
that great Ubisoft Assassin's Creed thing, right? We'll keep putting out Assassin's Creed every year until you stop buying it. You can turn around and say that EA is the most evil company in the world because of X, Y, and Z, but they're giving you a Madden every fucking year because you buy Madden every fucking year. And I'm not complaining about that as somebody who plays the Maddens or like somebody who fucking bought every WWF game on N64, right? Like I should say THQ game because obviously there was WCW. But you know what I'm saying? Like I want that every fucking year, so yeah, I'm gonna buy it, and then I'm not gonna turn around there and be like, oh. Another one of these.
It just goes further than that, too. MPD last month for September of 2016, with combined digital and retail sales, the 4 top-selling games in the United States were all annualized sports games. 2, 3, and 4 were Electronic Arts sports games. So people out there like high on their horse thinking they're speaking for everyone, you're fucking not. You know? Like, clearly you're not. NHL 17, the 4th of the big 4 sports by a mile in the United States, right? Like, in terms of popularity. Outsold Destiny the Collection. You know, BioShock, the collection, Grand Theft Auto 5, Minecraft, you know, so like, just like everyone needs to relax with like the demonization of publishers. I don't agree with the annualization thing either. I think Ubisoft was smart to get rid of Assassin's Creed for a little while, to take more time with Watch Dogs sequel and all those kinds of things. But this high horse shit about like, people like those kinds of games too. I think the person that gets in, the publisher that gets in first with these annualized sports games, for instance, makes them a platform, makes the game even free, charges for roster updates and patches and all those kinds of things. That's where the money's going to be made in a few years. But until we get to that tipping point, often we see data suggesting that what I'm suggesting is either not tenable or just way ahead of the curve. And we're going to see that when the show comes out, and you're going to see that for the next 12 fucking months because NBA 2K17 will be on that list every month without fail. So, you know, the demonization, not that I was just asking necessarily, but no, publishers don't ruin games. They fund them. You know, like, the people have gone over.
It's too broad a brush.
Fucking, yeah.
Did Activision mishandle the Spider-Man franchise? Yes. Should they have tried to, you know, give Beanox like 9 months at a time to make Spider-Man games? No, they shouldn't have. But like, they aren't ruining games.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Kind of Funny Gamescast, a particularly good one, I think.
It was worth the $1.
Worth the motherfucking $1.
Whoa, don't
Until
curse.
next time, I love you.